Okay, guys, so we have to get back started with Units 7 and 8, but I want to still do good news, of course. But I'm just going to take 4 to 5 people so that we can get through quickly, especially since last class period we had that shortened class. So I don't want to miss out too much time. So who has good news to share with us? Caitlin? It's your mom's birthday. Did you do anything for her? No? Well, that's wonderful. Tell her we said happy birthday. Yes, Victor?
My birthday's in 9 days.
9 days. How old are you turning in 9 days?
12.
Awesome. Aiden?
My birthday's in 9 more days too, except I'm 24 minutes older.
All right, so we'll have to, is that going to be an A day or B day? Do we know?
I don't know.
All right. Well, it is also Aiden's birthday in 9 days, but he is older than Victor by 24 minutes. So, Aiden.
I got some new things from my gift card.
Can you take that down so we can hear you?
What'd you get? I got some new things from the gift card
What'd you buy?
that I got from my gift card, and I don't know what I bought, but I bought something.
You don't know what you bought? All right. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. All right. So remember last class I told you that I was kind of looking to see where you were on things and we could make the groups from there because I know that some of you got to the point where you need to do notes with me. So sorry for you that are already sitting, but I'm going to make some people move. So Javed and Talon and Brandon and Brennan. Hold on, I wrote it down. Carly and Caitlin, we're going to be right here. Why are you looking at me like that? So I need you 4 too, so that they can come up here so that we can do some notes. And then while you guys are, oh, what Brandon?
Is it continue notes from 3.7?
Yes. It's green level under 2.8. If you need a charger, you can bring the extension cord with you.
Brandon hit me in my face.
All right, so as we're all moving, I'm going to tell the other people what things they need to be working on, okay? I basically, last night I just looked to see what you all finished on Monday so that we know from here. So Aiden Collins and Victor, you need to finish up the 2.5 on green. There was some of it that wasn't completely done. That's the finding solutions for equations. So I know you guys are working together. Make sure you get that done. And then go to 2.7, so the equally parking or university parking and equally driven, those pages. Yep. So I know you started them last class, but those need to be finished before you move on. Jordan, I want you to go into 2.7, the yellow section. There's notes that you need to take. Hold on one second so she can hear me. The video for it is in Teams. I recorded myself giving the notes so you can watch that and get caught up from that day that you weren't here. Okay? Yes, Trevor, Aiden Reese, Franklin, and Gabby all on 2.7, the green level. Okay? I don't mind. You can definitely work with each other. Let me know if you have questions on stuff. Right. Gabby's over there.
Okay, let's move on to
So I take notes on the video?
Yes, ma'am. So on that page, there's actually, on the 2.7 for yellow, there's already like I put the notebook background on there. You already have place for your notes, so just split your screen. You can watch the video and copy down my notes. I took Cornell notes on there for you, okay?
Sure.
Oh my gosh, be careful. Woo, nice job. All right. Yeah. All right, so we are going to go to 2. Here's what I realized too. It says, you better know. It says continue notes from 3.7, but it's actually 2.7. But I was looking and I was like, wait a second, there is no 3.7. Yeah, sorry. I didn't realize my own error.
I'm gonna change that.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, once I've already put stuff into everybody's folders, if I change it on mine, it doesn't change it on all of yours. So I was like, I'm not gonna go all the way through. Go ahead.
Wow. Why would you do that? That's my favorite font because it looks like you're actually writing.
Mm-hmm. All right, 2.8.
See how you look like you're actually writing.
There we go. Actually, before we get to that, I want to kind of just talk about this page right here. You guys did this already, right? Where is... Okay. All right, so I want you guys to tell me what you learned when you were doing the anticipation guide, and then you did the video that had some notes about here. Can you tell me what kind of things you learned from there? This is the yellow level 2.7, anticipation guide, and then inequality symbols.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I learned
You learned what the symbols were? Can you tell me?
okay,
What's that first one there?
greater than,
Greater than. Ooh, I did not realize that was in all caps. All right, so greater than,
less than.
less than. And these two you've learned in elementary school, right? You already knew those, the whole alligator mouth, whichever number's bigger, right?
But I was really confused on the two bottom ones.
Okay. So what do those two bottom ones end up being?
Greater than or equal to.
All right, greater than or equal to, and
And less than.
so what we can see with those ones is that it's basically like both symbols there. So if we cover up that, here, let me just do it this way. If we cover up this right here, we just have the greater than symbol, right? But then if you cover up the top part, it kind of looks like a what? Equal sign. So even though it's like a little bit funky, like it's a like this kind of equal sign, but we can still see that that is showing us that it could be either one. It can be greater than or it can be equal to. So it kind of, it's gonna open up like a whole bigger thing. So if I say, okay, 6 is greater than 3, we know that that's true. But I can say 6 is greater than or equal to 6 because it's actually equal to 6. So it kind of covers both of those. Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of. It'll make more sense as we practice on. All right, so you got confused.
Like the children
Do you know why I'm glad you got confused? Do you know what I'm gonna say? Confusion leads to learning, right? So anytime we're confused, that's a good thing. Okay, so let's look at that first one. The maximum number of people allowed on the ride at one time is 100. So when I think about the word maximum, what does that mean?
like the only amount
The highest amount.
Good, the highest amount, right? So it cannot be more than that, ever. So can it be 100 people on the ride?
yeah.
What else can it be?
Under.
Under 100. So what kind of symbol am I going to use for that? Good, because it can be less than 100. That's fine. I don't know if they would ride the ride, if they would run the ride if there's only 2 people on it, but maybe they would, and that'd be awesome, right? So it can be less than 100, but it can also be exactly 100, and that's okay. So that's where that symbol comes into play, that it can be either one of them. So basically we just pick a variable, right? Because anytime we don't know what a value is, that's what we're going to do. So what variable would you like to use? Just tell me a letter. It doesn't matter. Tell me a letter. C. C for Carly. All right. So C, and then we're going to use the greater than or I'm sorry, less than or equal to symbol, which is going to be, if you go to insert symbols, I believe it's in there. Oh yeah.
I just got
That's okay too. And then it made your things really big, right? So it should look like that, which I'm sure if you watched that video, I kind of already explained that, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not going to grade you on exactly what your symbol looks like. All right, so what about the next one?
children under 3 years old.
Good. So we've seen that before, right? That whenever you go places, children under 3 can get into free, something like that. Yeah, exactly. So when we think of under 3, what does that mean? Good. You can be 2. You can be, can you be 3?
Yeah. No.
So I hear it says under 3. So what does that mean? You can be like 2 and as close as possible, right? 2 and 364 days. and you'll be at free, but once you hit 3, then it's not included. So which symbol do I use? Less than, exactly. So C is less than 3. I'm going to change the color or something. All right. Next one. In order to qualify for free shipping, you must spend at least $25 at Amazon. I'm going to highlight this here, at least. What does that mean? You must spend that much? Okay. Okay, so the least amount is 25. Can I spend more than 25? Right, so I can spend $25.01, or I can spend $8,000 and still get free shipping, right? Which, if I spend $8,000 on Amazon, I've got a problem, but that's okay. All right, so how are we going to write that inequality? Perfect. Nice correction of yourself. So originally you said greater than 25, but then wait a second, you can spend $25 and get the free shipping. So it's going to be that greater than or equal to 25. So I'm going to use an S for shipping. All right, S is greater than or equal to 25. And how about the last one there? Your essay must be over 200 words. Say it again, Caitlin. Greater than. Fantastic. So it can't be 200. It has to be over than that, right? At one point, I had this, and someone thought I was that was just directions at the end, was that they had to write an essay over 200 words. So another good example, when we're talking about those different words that we're looking for. So if I say you have to be 16 to drive a car, right? It doesn't mean you only have to be 16. I guess in Florida it's 15, huh? Forgot it changes for your permit. So you can be 15 or 16, but you can also be 100 and maybe and still drive. Legally still drive. Probably shouldn't drive, but you can, yeah. So it's one of those, you have to look for those things that it's not necessarily just that number. It can include a whole bunch. All right, so now we can go back to that other page. I just wanted to make sure the continue notes from 2.7, we'll change that. That's crazy. Who's the third? When's your birthday, Brennan?
The 22nd.
Oh, nice. All right, where did I put my notes? Mine too.
Like on model, is it bad doing that?
I think it's personal preference. All right, so our first question is going to be, how do you solve inequalities? So it's one thing just to see the inequality, x is greater than 100, but we need to actually know how to solve them, which is going to be a little bit different. What's cool?
How you write with that?
I know. Say that again? Oh, so whenever you type, hit ALT and the plus sign.
Oh,
And then it'll pop up insert equation here.
type equation.
Now, when you're looking at number 1, you don't have an equation written there. You just have a number.
Question mark.
So is that your answer?
I'm
From-
on the phone.
Okay.
I'm on the English working.
Okay.
But I'm stuck trying to figure it out.
This is going to become 41 over 4. Make sure you put a space in between them. Switch those two around.
I kept
So, I told you. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so my question is, though, is 2 2/4 your answer to the problem? One of you said yes, one of you said no. Because what I'm concerned with is the question 1 says write an equation, and then you have 2 2/4. And that is not an equation. So I want you to think about what you can do to write the actual equation to get the problem. I mean, not to get the problem, to get the answer. No, you need to write an equation.
Oh, to solve the equation?
No. up here. It says write an equation that will help you determine. So you need to actually see what you're trying to find and then write it out. What? You can just use the slash that's underneath the question mark. That's fine. Or you can go insert symbol and it'll give you the actual one. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, any idea how we solve inequalities? Think about something we did in 2.7.
Go back there.
Okay. What were we doing in 2.7 in general? Not 2.8, 2.7. Uh-huh. So what do you think could potentially be a way? Yeah. So we talked about ways to solve equations. How do we solve an equation? Look at your notes. Go up a page. Yeah, how do we solve an equation? Isolate the variable. What's the inverse operation? Caitlin said do the inverse operation. What does that mean? The opposite, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if we're adding, we subtract. And then what do we do? Okay. So she said what you do to one side, you do to the other side. The awesome thing about solving inequalities is it's exactly the same as solving an equation. Because it's still different, but the process is the same. So it's just making it a little bit easier that we don't have to learn how to do a whole other thing. So same steps. So you can do one of two things. You can rewrite all of the steps, or if you want to go to your notes from 2.7 and just pull them over, I'm okay with that too. Ever in your whole life? Same steps. 2.7 was fun. Yeah, I think it's cool to see coming up with this solution to it. Well, this is going to be fun too because it's the same. But then we take it a little bit further and we're going to graph it on a number line. So I'm going to include isolate the variable. And I'm going to leave you for a second and check on some other people. Okay, so copy that down. If I'm not back by the time you all are ready, I want you to come up with an with an inequality. So I want you guys to come up with one that we have to solve. See if you can do that. Are you able to find it?
Yeah, just got all my things got lost today. I'm trying to find my Office 365 still has them. I just lost them from there.
You know what? That happened a lot yesterday. So I don't know what was going on, but that happened to a lot of people that whenever their notebooks were just gone. So going through the 365, you can either pull it back down or you can just use the online version.
I thought it was just me.
Nope. So I don't know what was going on, but you're not the only person.
That's weird.
Yeah. So once you get that, when you go into Teams, it's that Unit 7 videos.
Okay. I was trying to find because I know there's some there, and somehow Algebra 2 honors from I have one.
Interesting. I don't know why either. We'll look at that later, but just don't use that one because
Yeah.
we don't even, that's not even a middle school
Yeah, I
class.
think I'm taking Algebra 1, so I don't know how Algebra 2.
Yeah, that's not even a middle school class, so I don't know.
Yeah.
How are we doing?
And the teacher who teaches it, the teacher's name is there. It's not even the teacher's name in the school.
I bet what happened is that there might be someone else with your last name or something similar to it in the county, because whenever we add students to notebooks, you can accidentally put the wrong one, or maybe she accidentally typed the wrong R2D2 and so it added you to it or something like that. But I'll look at it and I'll send that person an email and just let them know that they have the wrong student in there so that their other student isn't missing. Trevor, can I see what's going on? Sorry. I'll try not to hit you in the face. Okay, so that's much better because I didn't want to see a multiplication problem happening. But think about this, you cannot split your whole numbers and your fractions and do the problem. Because, actually, can you explain to me what's happening on that second part? I'm going to sit over here. When you have 1/2 of 1/2, what's going on there? Okay, so 1/2 of 1/2 is 1/4. Okay, and what else did you have as your? Okay, see, we're using. Okay, so I love that you were able to use a variable in there. What we need to look at though, think about it this way. If I go backwards to check my work, if I have 2 1/4 and then I add it to 2 1/2, is that going to give me 4 1/4? What's it going to give her? It's going to give me 4 3/4. So then we know that there has to be a little mistake somewhere. Because now when I go back, it's longer, right? So I want you to look back through and reevaluate, see how you can come up with the number that's going to give you the correct amount of time left over. Okay. Aiden, how are you?
There we go. And then I'm going to put
And so you're working on something. Okay. Are you working on the same thing? Okay. So talk to each other too. I'm okay with that. It's not that you have to completely do this by yourself because I know fractions are kind of tricky. So feel free to, because you have the same equation, which is good, and that's the correct equation. And then just figure out how you do that too. Did you finish the fraction one? I can't think of it. Equally driven. Okay, so same, you made the same mistake. So you have that 1/4 minus 1/2 is going to give you 1/2. But if I think about 1/2 plus 1/2, that's 1 whole, not 1/4. Okay, so there's a little mistake there with your math. You subtracted the wrong way. So I want you to read back through that. Maybe draw a picture out or something like that. You guys want some markers? Did you guys come up with an inequality? Oh, we disconnected. Oh my gosh.
I think me and Calvin
You think what?
came up with one.
Okay.
I don't know.
You know, I just meant the inequality. I didn't mean the whole problem, but I would love to hear. But it's okay. Tell me your problem about ramen noodles.
I don't know if I can hear.
Okay.
I was thinking of
All right. Let's hear it.
Go ahead. Okay, this is well, not on your computer.
Yeah, 20,000 packages of ramen noodles. You have to give away at least 50,000. So I wrote M greater than
Oh wait, so you have to.
Say that. God bless you. Okay. So you said. Can you read me the problem again?
yes. You have 20,000 packages of ramen noodles. You have to give away at least 15,000.
This is what I was thinking of when I was doing it. I was thinking,
Okay.
this is the same thing.
2,000. Okay, so what I like is you have to give at least 15,000. So we need to have like, how many would you have left over? Something of that nature to finish up. I know you already solved it in your head, but we need to write it first and then we can solve it. Right. So if he's saying at least, you have to give away that minimum, but you can also give away more. So our equation is going to look something like, excuse me, inequality, not equation. 20,000 minus R for ramen noodles is at least, which one am I going to use for at least? God bless you. What symbol should I use for at least? God bless you. Right, because it can be greater than that or it can be equal to that, right? Equal to 15,000. Oh, jeez. All right. So here is our inequality. Okay. Oh, this is going to be a little bit tricky. The only thing is that's going to give us some negative numbers, which y'all don't know how to use yet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch it like this. I'm going to rewrite it like this just to make sure, because I don't want to get to too confusing and have it be something, because we haven't done negative numbers in problems yet, and so I don't want it to, yeah, we're going to do it in a couple units, but we'll just rewrite it this way. So maybe like you have a number of ramen noodles and you gave away 20,000 and you have at least 15,000 left over. How many did you start with, or something like that, okay? So this looks very similar to an equation, but what's different? Why didn't you tell me that it's not even up here? I forgot. I'm thinking that you're seeing what I'm seeing this whole time. Connecting us now. Sorry about that. Okay. That's so funny. Okay, so r minus 20,000 is greater than or equal to 15,000. So it is similar than an equation, but what is the difference? You have the greater than or equal to sign. But let's do the exact same process. So we're still going to acknowledge where the variable is. Okay. We're still going to draw our line. Remember, you didn't have to draw the line, but if you liked it to be organized, you can. So what step am I going to do here if I have subtraction? Good, because why? What's it called? Nice, because it's the inverse operation. So we are going to add, what are we going to add? 20 to 15, good. So you said 15,000. Yeah, so we look where the variable is, remember, and then whatever's happening to the variable, we're going to do the opposite, or the inverse. So if I'm subtracting 20,000, now I'm going to add 20,000. But if I do it on the left-hand side there, what needs to happen? Exactly. So this cancels out, and I have just my R. So now we know how many ramen noodles. 35. So now we know that if we had some random amount of ramen noodles and we gave away 20,000 packages, which is awesome, and we had at least 15,000 left over, we must have started with more than 35,000. Ramen noodles are super cheap though, so I'd be interested to find out how much 35,000. All right, so your assignment for me before you come back on Friday is to find out, not right now, is to find out how much the 35,000 packages of ramen noodles were. So it means that I could have 35,000, right? I could have started with 35,000 and then given away 20,000 and be left with 15,000. Or I could have started with way more than that, because all we know is that it was greater than or equal to 15,000 when we left over. So we could be starting with 100,000 and then subtracted 20,000 and we're left with 80,000, which is greater than or equal to 15,000. Does that make sense? So it's literally the exact same process, but then it's just the sign. Yeah, the sign is what makes it. So it gets a little bit confusing, but you just have to make sure whenever you're reading word problems especially, that's why I remember when we did all that stuff where we picked our keywords. So when you see words like at most, at least, more than, things like that, you're going to know that it's an inequality rather than an equation. Alrighty, so next question is how do you graph it?
I know the exact, like,
Why would you think of it?
okay, so what's it? Okay. Let's do convert.
Oh man, I am not in the right spot.
Okay. Oh, that's horrible.
Did you come up with the answer for the, it's called equally driven. Did you come up with an answer for that? What are you confused about? Mm-hmm. Okay, so where's your marker? I'm not looking for you. I'm not looking for you to add it either. Can you read me the problem? So all we're doing is finding out what value for x is going to make these equal. So if they're going to be equal, what do we know has to be true about both sides? Exactly. So you told me that you added these together, and what did you get? Fantastic. So now we are seeing that we need to figure out what we're adding to 12.8 in order to get 21.3, which 8.5. So that's literally all you were looking for, is to see which value. You didn't have to add anything to, a lot of people tried to add these two together and then they got 31.4 and we're trying to, or 34.1, excuse me. So you didn't add the decimal place, okay. So it equaled nothing and you're like, wait a second, right? All right, so then when you look at that next one, you have, did you put 3 for your answer?
She's actually nice.
I can't even draw this zero.
That's okay.
I see what you did there.
But what do you notice about that equation?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, no, that's
Is it? Oh, 4. Okay, but this operation is what? When every division. So you're telling me that 3 divided by 12 equals 4. But really, 12 divided by 3 is 4, right? So see that this looks different than this does. If I have 12 of something and I put it into 3 groups, there will be 4 in each group. If I have 3 of something, can I divide it into 12 groups? I can, but it's going to give me just a little bit, right? It's going to be 1/4 of the thing. Yes. Why would it be 48? Exactly. So you see, if we know that we're dividing by 12, it means that the number that we are starting with has to be larger than 12, right? So Franklin was thinking about that, and that's how he came up with 48. Yeah. Does that make sense, Gabby? That was like the most common mistake. Almost everybody put 3 for that one.
Instead of